column. Quote, my interest in the death penalty arises partly from a mistake of my own. At the beginning of 2000, I spoke to Barry Scheck of the Innocence Project, who told me about a white man on death row in Texas, Cameron Todd Willingham, whom he believed to be innocent. I discussed with the editors the possibility of doing a deep dive into the case, but I let myself be lured away by the sirens of that year's Iowa caucuses instead. I never wrote about Willingham, and he was executed in 2004. Subsequent evidence strongly suggests that not only was Willingham innocent, but that no crime was even committed. He had been convicted of splashing gasoline around his house and then setting it on fire to murder his 3 little children. But experts later showed there was no gasoline and the fire was simply an accident that probably started with faulty wiring. Imagine what it would be like to lose the people you love the most, then be convicted of murdering them, and finally be strapped to a gurney and executed by lethal injection. I hope the new movie, Trial by Fire, will prick the national conscience. In Jacksonville, Clifford Williams is now trying to get used to freedom after 42 years as a convicted murderer. Buddy Schultz, his lawyer, told me what happened when he visited Williams in prison and told him he would be released. He cried for the first 10 minutes, Schultz recalled. For the next 10 minutes, he laughed. Schultz added, I'm personally of the opinion the death penalty serves no purpose whatsoever, and I think it's immoral. The judge imposed it, and but for a close decision by the Supreme Court, here would have been an innocent man who would have lost his life. So that's the end of the Kristof column that I read a great deal from. Thank you, Nicholas Kristof from the New York Times. I wanted to return to some additional recommendations. This entire podcast, I have picked out many films, books, articles, and people that I really would love for my audience to become familiar with. So a book I read 10 years ago is called Picking Cotton. It was written by Jennifer Thompson and Ronald Cotton in 2009, 2 very unlikely co-authors. I had the great pleasure of meeting Jennifer at an Innocence Network convention, that same one where I met Anthony Ray Hinton, the man who spent 3 decades on death row in Alabama. When Jennifer was in her early 20s, she was living off campus in North Carolina going to college. She was the victim of a rape by someone she identified soon after the assault. Her memory, she said, was clear. There was no doubt about the perpetrator. It was Ronald Cotton. You see where this is going, right? Cotton was convicted and sent to prison. 11 years into his sentence, having maintained his innocence from the start, he met a man who looked a lot like him. So much so that people in the prison kept calling him by the other man's last name, which was Poole. Eventually, Cotton was able to request and get DNA testing on the rape kit, and he was exonerated. When he first got to prison, by the way, DNA was not in use. When police detectives faced Jennifer with her mistake, she was adamant. No, she had not made a mistake. But indeed, she had. Ultimately, she and Ronald Cotton met, and she apologized to him profusely, and he forgave her. Not only did they write this book together, but they speak all over the United States about witness misidentification. Getting Life is Michael Morton's memoir of his 25 years behind bars for the murder of his young wife. Published in 2014, it is his agonizing story of wrongful conviction. In 2013, CNN showed a film highlighting his miscarriage of justice. That movie was called An Unreal Dream. It's really a documentary, as Morton is featured throughout the film. The Central Park Five are the subject of both a documentary of the same name, done in 2011 by Sarah Burns, daughter of the documentary filmmaker Ken Burns, and it's also a book. In 2019, Ava DuVernay directed When They See Us, a docudrama about the Central Park Five. Netflix carried the 4-part series. Rectify was a series on Netflix a couple of years back, well worth watching. Another excellent series on Netflix was The Staircase, about a man convicted of killing his wife. The viewer is part of the trial, a rare occurrence. The Staircase featured all the actual people involved in this case. Rectify is also the name of a book. The full title is The Power of Restorative Justice After Wrongful Conviction. Written by Lara Bazelon in 2018, the book delves into the aftermath of wrongful conviction in terms of its impact on the lives of everyone connected to a case. Even after a case is overturned, the obstacles exist and are difficult to overcome. A victim is often victimized twice, by the perpetrator who wasn't caught and then by the justice system due to incompetence, racial bias, blind bias, and so many other factors. Injustice is a knife that cuts both ways. This book was a gift from my sister and well worth reading. Killing Time, an 18-year odyssey from death row to freedom, was published in 2010 by John Holloway as a memoir of his nightmare in prison. Another book is Actual Innocence, written in 2000 by Barry Scheck, Peter Neufeld, and Jim Dwyer, about the start of the Innocence Project, founded by Scheck and Neufeld. Exit to Freedom, authored by Calvin Johnson in 2003, is his memoir about the 16 years he spent in Georgia's prisons wrongly convicted. He was released in 1999 with help from the Innocence Project and DNA. I want to encourage those who are listening to find the movies and the books that I mentioned to add a dimension to the topics we will be discussing in the future. For our podcasts in November, I hope to focus solely on one case, and I went into that case today regarding the article that Nick Kristof wrote in the Times. And that case is Nathan Myers and his uncle Clifford Williams, both from Florida. They spent 43 years in prison as innocent men. And our project, the Innocence Project of Florida, in collaboration with the brand new Conviction Integrity Review Unit, managed to get their case overturned in March of this year. I have invited the exonerees and the state attorney to come on the program, in addition to the director of the new Conviction Review Integrity Unit. Now, at this point in time, I'm not sure who will be able to give their time to us, but I'm hoping everyone will, but we'll have to wait and see. As always, thank you so much for listening and sharing part of your day with me. I would really enjoy hearing your comments, your questions, even maybe your suggestions. I'm always open. I'd like you to write to me at pursuitofjustice1@gmail.com. Now, I had given another email earlier in an earlier podcast, and I've just changed it to this one. It also may have to be changed again because we've changed our name of the program. Our new name is Pursuing Justice because there already is a podcast with the name Pursuit of Justice. So I hope to hear from my listeners. I would enjoy that very, very much. And we will see you next time on Pursuing Justice.